I'm going to keep this straightforward because I know how many times you've watched a hype-filled unboxing that leaves you wondering if you're really getting something that fits your needs. If you've been scrolling through endless specs tables and still feel a little uneasy about spending a chunk of your budget on a pre-built, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'll walk through what it's like to actually set this machine up, how it behaves when you sit down for a marathon session, where the money is really going, and who should walk away and who should give it a try. First off, the CLX Set gaming PC arrives in a sleek black case that looks more like a piece of modern furniture than a typical gamer box. The RGB on the 32GB DDR5 sticks is subtle, a soft pulse that doesn't scream for attention, which makes it a decent fit for a living room setup where you might also be streaming or working. The first practical hurdle is the size of the 360mm AIO cooler. It fits comfortably, but you need at least a mid-tower or larger chassis to accommodate the radiator without cramming other components. If you have a compact desk space, that could be a hidden trade-off you didn't anticipate. When you plug it in and fire up Windows 11 Home for the first time, the system boots in under 10 seconds, thanks to the 2TB NVMe drive. That speed is noticeable the moment you launch a game like Cyberpunk 2077 or a large open-world title such as Elden Ring. The load times shave minutes off what you'd normally spend waiting for texture streaming. For anyone who does a lot of game swapping, say a few hours of a shooter, then a quick jump to a strategy game, the SSD's capacity and speed keep you from constantly juggling external drives or deleting files to make room. The heart of this build is the Intel Core i9-14900KF. On paper, it's a powerhouse, but the real test is how it handles sustained workloads. In practice, I ran a 2-hour session of Red Dead Redemption 2 while streaming on Twitch at 1080p, and the CPU stayed well within its thermal envelope, thanks largely to that 360mm liquid cooler. The clock speeds held steady, and I didn't notice any stutter or frame time spikes that would make a viewer or a competitive opponent notice. That tells me the cooling solution isn't just a marketing badge. It actually delivers the consistency you need for both gaming and content creation. Now, the graphics card. The RTX 5060 Ti sits a step below the RTX 4070 line, but it still packs enough CUDA cores and ray tracing hardware to run most modern titles at 1080p high settings with smooth 60 frames per second. I tested it on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and got an average of 68 frames per second with ultra settings and DLSS on, which is more than enough for a smooth experience on a 144Hz monitor. If your monitor is 4K, you'll need to dial settings back, but that's true for any card in this price range. What's useful to point out is the balance between the CPU and GPU here. The i9 can push more frames than the GPU can render at 4K, so you're not wasting that extra processing power. From a storage perspective, the 2TB NVMe isn't just about raw capacity. It's about the flexibility to keep a library of large games, a few editing projects, and the operating system all on one fast drive. I moved my entire Steam library onto it and didn't have to think about installing additional SSDs or external drives. That convenience can be a real money saver because you avoid the hidden cost of buying extra storage later on. Connectivity is another area where the CLX Set tries to be future-proof. Built-in Wi-Fi 6E and a solid Ethernet port give you reliable network performance for both online gaming and large file uploads. In my house, the Wi-Fi 6E handled a 144Hz gaming session on a router about 30 feet away without any noticeable latency spikes, which is a nice reassurance if you don't want to run a dedicated Ethernet cable to your desk. However, the machine only includes a couple of USB-A ports on the front, which means you'll need a hub for any older peripherals, something to keep in mind if you have a lot of dongles or controllers. So, who should walk away? If you're a budget-conscious gamer who's happy with a 1080p 144Hz setup and you're comfortable spending under $2,000 for a ready-to-play PC, this model might be stretching your budget a bit. The i9-14900KF and the RTX 5060 Ti together push the price into a bracket where you could consider building a similar spec yourself for less, especially if you're comfortable with the assembly process. Also, if you're looking for a fork-first machine, you'll hit a ceiling here. You'll need to downgrade settings or upgrade the GPU later, which defeats the all-in-one promise. On the other hand, If you value a hassle-free experience, meaning you want a system that works out of the box, with Windows pre-installed, the cooler already set up,